This tutorial is to go through the Student Loans Project and hopefully give you some tips and tricks on how to fill it all out. So the first thing you'll notice is that my numbers are different. I don't want you to type in the numbers. I'd like you to follow the process to hopefully figure out how to fill in all of the cells. So the first thing is Jordan is a single male student with 6 more semesters to graduate. After thinking carefully about his finances, he decided he needs to take out a student loan to finish school. Jordan estimated that he will need $5,660 per semester to pay for the essentials of housing, tuition, books, food, travel, and personal items. He earns $2,110 a semester, but will need to borrow the remaining amount each semester. Jordan was approved to take out one loan for each of his remaining 6 semesters for up to $5,900 per loan. Jordan must decide if he should take one, take out the full amount of student loans being offered, which would make life really nice right now, or 2, only take out exactly what is needed, which would be just enough to get by on right now, but would make life easier. Sorry, this is a little small, so we better zoom in. Would make life easier after he graduates, because then he has less to pay off. So the first thing is to identify variables and assumptions. I'm only going to identify one variable so that you can kind of brainstorm and think of some other things. And the variable that I'm putting down is interest rate, because that's something that can change according to where he gets his student loan and paying it back. The next one are a couple of assumptions, and I put a few down here. You can come up with any number of assumptions as well for yourself. And one is that he actually is going to graduate and that he has made the decision that he does need this loan, and so forth. And again, you can also brainstorm some options. The next one is Jordan found the APR 5.5% on the Federal Student Aid website. To make calculations easier, he assumes that the rate will stay the same for all 6 semesters. Even though he realizes that prices and wages change, he also assumes that his essential expenses will stay close to $5,360 and that he can earn about $2,110 each semester. He plans to use a 10-year loan term. These assumptions make it easier for Jordan to apply quantitative tools to his situation. So the first thing is we want to know the total amount of money that Jordan needs to finish school. And we were told how much all of his essential expenses will be, which is $5,360. Yes, these numbers are different than yours, but the process is still the same. So I'm going to type in $5,360, and that is per semester. And with 6 semesters left, we're going to times this by 6. And that tells us how much money he needs total to finish his schooling. The next one is how much money will Jordan earn on his own? And that is $2,110 per semester, or each semester. So again, to calculate, we're going to do equals $2,110 and multiply that by 6 semesters, and that's how much money we can assume that he will be earning in those 6 semesters. The next one is, what is the minimum amount of money that Jordan needs to borrow? So if this is the total amount that he needs for everything, and this is how much he can earn, we need to find the difference between those, and that's the very smallest amount that we're going to be looking for him to make up to get from this 12 to the 32. So we're going to subtract 32 minus what he earns, and that'll give us how much is left over that we need to make at the very minimum to make up for his full $32,160. The next one is, what is the maximum amount of money that Jordan could borrow? The very maximum amount was, we have to scroll up here a little bit, and it said that let's zoom in a little bit. Oh, he was approved for a loan of $5,900, every semester. So 5,900. So this equals $5,900 every semester. So we times that by 6, and he can get up to $35,400. So the next one, if Jordan takes the maximum amount, how much extra money could he have each of his remaining 6 semesters? So here we need to find the difference between how much the largest amount versus the smallest amount, and then divide that amongst the 6 semesters. So we're going to do equals the very largest amount of money that he can get, subtract the very smallest amount of money that that he could get or could choose to get. And then we want to divide that over all 6 semesters, because this is saying each of his remaining 6 semesters, not total. If we were just to press enter, that's how much total, but he has 6 semesters in that. So I'm going to do parentheses around the difference here and then divide by 6. And that tells me how much money extra each semester going with the larger amount would give him. So he would have more than $2,000. Okay, so now we're going to come over here to the loan comparisons. The first one is the minimum loan, and the second is the maximum loan amount. So the first one is the minimum loan is our $19,500, and I'm just going to go ahead and cell reference that since it's already written there, and if I cell reference, there's less opportunities for me to make typos. So I'm just going to do that. And same thing with this one, I'm just going to cell reference over here equals, and we have to come over at this direction to cell reference our largest amount and press enter. Okay, now the loan interest rate will be the same for both of them, and that was given to us in our information over here as 5.5% here. So we're just going to type this in, 5.5, and because I don't have a place to cell reference, I'm just typing it in. I could cell reference here, and that's kind of nice, knowing that those will stay the same. Okay, the next one is years to repay the loan. Again, over here, it gave us the 10-year loan term right here. So I know this is going to be 10. Don't have anything to cell reference for that, but we can do the easy way out and cell reference this one so that I know if I decide to change this, it'll change it for both of them. And that's kind of nice. Okay, now I need to find the monthly payments. So we're going to do equals and do the built-in Excel function PMT, and we'll take our rate and we divide this by 12 because it's a monthly rate, making monthly payments, sorry. And then number of periods, we have 10 years, and then that's every month in those 10 years. So we need to multiply that by 12 since there are 12 months in every of those 10 years. The next is the present value. Here's my loan amount here for the present value, and I don't need to worry about future value and type. So I can just press enter and that'll give me my payment. Same thing over here on this one, I can do equals PMT, and then I need the rate, 5.5. Again, divide it by 12, comma, number of periods will be 10 times 12 months for every 12 months in the year for every 10 years. And then the present value is our loan amount. And again, we could put 0 in the future amounts so that we know that we're working our way all the way down to 0, but we don't have to. Excel already assumes that. Now you'll notice that these are in red, which means that it is money going away from him, which is appropriate, except that we are going to be doing some calculations. And so we would actually like this to be a positive number as we're working with it. To do that, we can do a negative sign here in front of the payment, or we could make our present value negative over here. Right here and put negative here. It's up to you. It doesn't matter to me in which place you put the negative as long as it becomes positive so that we can continue to work with our calculations. So I'm just going to put negative in front. The next one, we want to find how much total payment, all of these payments will be combined. So now we have his monthly payment. It'll make this calculation pretty easy. So we'll cell reference his monthly payment, times it by months, and then times it by years, and that'll tell us how much money after every month for 10 years that'll end up accumulating. And same thing on this side. We'll do his monthly payment times 12 months in a year times 10 years. That gives us his total payments that he will pay for the entire amount of the loan. The next one is total interest. Now this is how much he has to pay, subtract how much he originally borrowed. So we're going to do the total payments, how much he spends overall after he pays it all back, subtract what the original was, and this is how much money goes towards interest in his payment of this loan. And same thing on this side, we'll do total payments, subtract the loan amount, and that'll tell us how much he has to pay over here. Now we can come down into the amortization part, and the first thing I'm going to do is do the months, because as in the other videos I showed how you can just double click and it'll fill it in. So the first thing I want to do is these months have already been kind of set up the pattern. I could go ahead and do a formula that says add 1 to the previous, but Excel can catch on and it starts filling those in, knowing that it's just moving by 1. So I'm going to do this, clear down to our 10 years of 12 months. In those 10 years means I'm going to go down to 120. So I'm going to drag this down, whoops, to 120 and stop there. And when I fill in my chart up here, I can just double click and it'll fill it all the way in down to 120. Same thing on this side, just because it's kind of nice just to have that there. Okay, now we're going to go fill in the amortization portion, showing each month. So we're going to start with the beginning balance here. Whoops. Sorry about that. Scroll back up. Okay, here's our beginning balance here. And I'm just going to cell reference our beginning balance is the total loan amount. And that's our beginning. The next one is how much money is going to interest. Well, we have our interest rate here, which is 5%. And since I'm going to be clicking and dragging, this is going to drag this with me. So I need to have this absolute cell reference. In a Mac, I think you do control, no, I can't remember. Function F4, same thing in the PC, Function F4 or the Apple F4. Okay, so it depends, I think, on the computer. I believe it is Function F4 or Shift F4 to get your function in the F4 to do the absolute cell reference. If you are not comfortable with that, go ahead and you can type in the $ yourself. The $ before the N says that it's going to stay in the N column, and the $ before the 40 says that it'll stay within the N or the 40th row. So if I have it on the N and the 40, it means that it will continue to reference N40 at all times. If you continue to toggle through your function F4 repeatedly, it will change that for the column, the row, the column, and then it'll get rid of it and then it'll put it on both. So just so you understand how to work through that. Now again, we're going to divide this by 12 because we're making monthly payments, and that's the interest per month, and so we're going to cell reference our beginning balance here, and that will tell us how much money is going to interest. The next one is to find out how much is going to principal. Now I have a monthly payment that we already calculated, and now I have how much interest is going towards the loan, so whatever's left over will actually be coming off of the principal. So we're going to cell reference our monthly payment, and again, because I want it to continue to reference the monthly payment, we're going to absolute cell reference and then we will subtract the amount going to interest, and that tells me how much is going towards the principal. Now the ending balance means that I take the beginning balance and subtract what came off, which will be the amount that went to the principal. So the next month has the beginning balance of what the ending of the first month was. Now here's our moment of truth to see if we did these correct. So I'm going to click and drag this here. I could type it out again, but I think because we absolute cell referenced, this should be just fine. I'm going to double click just to check. Yep, I referenced the loan amount divided by 12 and referenced the cell next, which is the beginning balance. I do not want to absolute cell reference this. This needs to change with me so that as the money is coming off, the beginning balance is going down and down, which is good because we want it to go all the way to 0. And then to double check this one, I'm just going to check this, moving it down 1, and it looks like it's worked. More money is coming or going towards the principal, not a lot, but a little bit, and it's cell referencing this absolute cell reference up there, which is good. Press enter to go out of there, and this, again, make sure that we've cell referenced the subtraction of the cells on month 2 to the left. Now this whole row here on month 2 is correct and looks good, so I can just get the crosshairs, one left click and select all of these, get the crosshairs down here in the corner and double click, and it'll fill in my chart all the way down to my month 120 and show that it goes to 0. So everything looks good. If you've done any rounding in here, so if you, instead of cell referencing here, if I had simply typed in the $211.63, it would be slightly rounded because this is not exactly. In fact, we could show a little bit if I wanted to come over here, show a few more, and those are being calculated. If I were to have rounded that to the $211.62 or 63 cents, then this would leave some money at the end down here. So absolute cell referencing makes every calculation really complete. I know that some students would say that it's not as accurate to the real world because you don't pay parts of the penny, and so they might actually round it up just a little bit more so that your last payment you actually pay less than the total monthly payment. But for our calculations, we're going to say that it is sufficient to just cell reference. Now we're going to do the exact same thing over here on the maximum amount as what we did on the other one. So we're going to cell reference this. It does not need to be an absolute cell reference because we won't be clicking and dragging this month right here in month 1. The interest will be, again, as we did over here, cell referencing our 5.5% and making sure that it's an absolute cell reference. And then divide this by 12 because we're making monthly payments, and that will be from the beginning balance. That tells us how much money is going towards interest. The next one is principal, and we'll take again our monthly payment and subtract the interest. But before I move on, because I want to click and drag this again, I want this to always reference the monthly payment. So I absolute cell reference this and subtract what amount is going towards the interest. And that tells me that this much is going towards the principal. So I can subtract that from my beginning balance to find my ending balance right here. And I don't want to absolute cell reference in here because I need this dollar amount to go down and the amount going towards my principal to pay it off going up. The month 2 needs to reference the end of month 1 because that's what we're beginning with in the next month. Now, again, as we did in the other one, we're going to double check and make sure that worked. Yep. We're cell referencing the interest and the beginning balance of month 2. I don't want to be referencing month 1 because it needs to change. And double check this. It went up, so that looked good. It's referencing my monthly payment and it's subtracting the interest for month 2. And again, just double checking this, and it looks like some money came off, so everything looks good. This one is correct, everything in month 2, so I'm going to highlight it, double click, and it'll fill it in all the way down to 0 on month 120. Looks good. Okay, so that's how we complete both of those. Now we're going to come over here, and don't forget your number 5. That's the last thing. Everything else should be, you need to pick your loan option and number 5. I apologize. So both of those. And that is how you can complete your student loan project. Good luck.